How can you structure your church's communications team to serve the other ministries in your church like an agency? What are the best ways that your comms team can help craft, promote, and execute powerful worship experiences? We'll talk about it today.
This is the definitive podcast for helping you plan, create, and execute dynamic worship experiences at your church. Useful, practical content in the areas of production, worship, communications, first impressions, and more. This is Making Sunday Happen.
Hey guys, welcome to the podcast this week. Family episode this week as I'm talking with Geoff McLarty. Geoff is our director of ready-made media and our creative director at 1230. And Geoff leads the charge in helping craft amazing ready-made and custom media content for our ministry. And speaking of our ready-made media, we are on a mission to help you have high-quality media content at your church for affordable prices for ministry. You can purchase media on our site a la carte, or save loads of money by grabbing our Go Unlimited subscription, $396 a year. So we're talking under $400 a year. We'll get you the entire library, all of it, that you can use at your church. Unlimited downloads of mini movies, collections, full series kits, editable title and social graphics, and much more. All of it. You can check it out at 1230.media/go. That's 1230.media/go. Plus, your subscription helps us make more resources to up the game of other churches. So we're helping each other make the Big C church look great. And boy, are we in a fight in our culture right now. But we are on the same team and we're in this with you. All right, my buddy Geoff McLarty on how to structure your church communications team. It's coming up. Hey guys, I want to tell you more about Experience Conference. It's happening in Orlando, September 6th through the 9th. It's at the Disney Coronado Resort. You'll worship with my friends Mac Brock, Meredith Andrews, Jonathan Taylor, Thrive Worship, and more. You'll also hear from great speakers like Scott Longer, Eddie Hoagland, and others. I've spoken at this event. Our team will be there this year. Make plans to come September 6th through the 9th in Orlando. You can get tickets at experienceconference.com. That's experienceconference.com. Hey guys, today I welcome Geoff McLarty. Geoff is the communications pastor at Mountain View Church in Queen Creek, Arizona. He is also on our team at 1230 as our director of ready-made media and our creative director. Geoff, man, thanks for hanging out.
Yeah, thanks, Carl, for inviting me. I'm excited to join the long list of awesome guests you've had and have a good chat today.
Well, I waited to put the best at the top of the list.
Okay. Yeah, you must say that to all your guests.
You can pay me later. I'm just kidding. All right, so let's dive in. Give me kind of a temperature check of what you're seeing in church world. Obviously, you serve at how many people is at your church? It's kind of more of a medium to large church there in Arizona. 2,500
to around 3,000 people here in Queen Creek.
Okay, so you serve that church, and you've been in ministry a long time, and obviously we serve a lot of churches at 1230. Kind of give me a temperature check of where you think the church is right now.
Yeah, it's a unique time to be in ministry, and it's a unique time to be. I think you could say that throughout history, but I do think right now with the climate, not just in here in the States, but across the globe, there's never been more need for the local church. And it's exciting because there's a lot of new technology, a lot of new advances that are happening, and it's happening very quickly. And as a church is kind of exploring these new technologies, exploring new avenues and ways that we can reach people with the message of Jesus, right? Our calling is to spread the gospel, the Great Commission. It's really actually a fun time, but it's also a challenging time because of how things change so quickly, how the climate can change, and how the technology changes. And so it's you're always on your toes. You're always working to stay ahead technologically, but also stay true to the message of the gospel, because that's what we're here for.
Yeah. I want to kind of talk about your communications team.
Yeah.
There at Mountain View. So we know that the comm team plays a big role in not only the messaging of Sunday, the promotion of Sunday, crafting the series, sometimes working with the pastor, executing graphics and video, social, all of that. So how is your team set up at Mountain View? Kind of give me a picture of where you guys are.
Yeah, so we have a team right now of, I think 6 or 7. I'm trying to remember. We've been hiring our comms team and building out our comms team. And our goal is that as a communications team, we have a kind of a twofold, really three-fold audience or clientele, if you will. And I use that because I like to think of communications, our communications team as an agency model, and that we serve not just the internal ministries, our students ministry, our kids ministry, our connects ministry, outreach, all the different ministries that we have with internally in the church. Then we also serve our church, the people that attend our church regularly, whether online or in person, and then the community. And so the external community, not just the internal community. And so we've kind of got this model set up where we say, listen, we are an agency. We are contracted, quote unquote, by the ministries to do work for them. We help them create graphics and videos and websites and app pages and things like that. We're doing work for them. So we want to view it that way, where we're saying they are the client, the student pastor or the kids, whoever is coming to us, they are our client, and we treat them as such. And so we speak into it creatively. We speak into it with our expertise, but we respect what they want, because they're the ones that are actually having to live with that communication tool, whatever it is. So that's how we use there. And then obviously we are a function and a ministry arm within the church, where we're ministering to our people, helping get information out and making it easier for people to connect from outside of our church into it.
How do you balance, though, letting them be an agency, letting them be a client and have a full say, but also know your expertise and know that you are, maybe more of an expert in the communications area? How do you make that balance?
Yeah, it's a great question, because it's a tightrope walk, because you want to respect them and respect that they know what they're talking about when it comes to their ministry, right? On the flip side, we have specialties and we have expertise, like you said, in communications and marketing and advertising. That's what we are here for. And so I think it starts with just the trust within the team. You have to trust yourself. You have to trust your instincts and trust your skills, that you've worked hard to understand how communications works and your specific, your craft works. But then you also have to have trust with the ministry leader. And that's one thing that we've been working on. We actually read a book as a staff called The Speed of Trust. And there are several things within it that really give you some tools to build trust quickly. And some of it is, just start with the best intentions of a person, understanding that they have the best intentions. They want what's best. And if you start with that premise, it's really easy. You can see their heart there. And then beyond that, it's about quick, immediate feedback. It's about being honest with one another. It's about having the tough conversations when you feel you're right and your conviction on when it comes to, what your specialty is, and then not speaking so matter-of-factly or factually about things that aren't part of your specialty. You can give feedback and say, hey, I would craft it this way, and I would do this or that, but don't speak as though you know everything, because you don't. And don't be afraid to fail. That's another thing, is like, I'll tell our team, and I tell the other ministries, like, hey, listen, this might not work. We're going to try something bold. We're going to be bold. And I think there's some respect that's built in that whole process. Like, as you're working closely with them, and as you're open to feedback from them, but you're also willing to be not a jerk, but be frank and direct and say, hey, listen, here's where I think. And then you just build that trust over time. For us, it's been a long process, so you have to build trust to then allow your voice to be heard. Otherwise, it can become across as accusatory, it come across as combative, which I'm an Enneagram 8. So that's naturally how people see me, like, oh, you're being combative. I'm like, I need to work on that, So there's, when they see those things, when you're willing to take the feedback from them, or when they're, it builds that trust with them.
Good. How's the structure changed since you came on staff? You kind of changed some things around, moved in a different direction. Where was it? And then how have you moved it forward?
Yeah. So when I came to Queen Creek and came to Mountain View Church in 2018, I think I started like September 17th. I remember a lot of the details that are kind of important to me, right? I love this church. And when I came on staff, it was myself as the communications director. Then we had a full-time graphic designer, and we had a part-time, she was actually the creative team admin. And so she wasn't even actually just communications. We were as a structure, the communications team, worship and production were all together as a team, and it functioned really well, for a season and time. It was necessary. So when I came on, it was a 2-man show, because we had a part-time admin that was kind of helping with project management. And then we had a graphic designer and myself that were kind of like, okay, hey, here's the app, here's the website, here's all the faith stories and video and creative video, and here's all the countdowns, and here's all the things you guys need to do. We're like, okay, we got this. So over the years, we kind of expanded our team. We've added creative videographers, we've added project managers, because anyone that's worked in the creative world knows that project managers are essential to keeping your deliverables churning and projects on time, and keeping creatives. It's like herding cats, right? So that's their job, is to herd the cats. But we kind of changed that structure to where communications is still part of the creative process, and still our creative people, but we are growing to the point where we're kind of a separate entity in and of itself within the church structure. And we've added people, and as things have become, things have changed. I remember like during COVID and the pandemic, and as we're staying home, my role changed. I became, instead of just a communication director, I became a video editor too, because I didn't have enough video editors. We turned out like 400 and some odd videos in like the span of 70 something days, 72 days.
Wow.
Or something crazy like that. It was like, it was nuts. So, you just pivot, and things have changed. And so for us now, for a long time, we were actually just serving the creative team when I first got here. Really serving the creative team and serving our lead pastor and our main, what we call celebrations. We don't use the word service. We call them celebrations. And then over time, it's been like, no, we want to kind of pivot, and we want to help, because we were doing a great job at serving worship and creative team and the main celebration and our main adult celebration. But we were like, we want to help our students and our kids grow too. And we want to serve them, because they have this need. And so it's been a slow process. I think that's the best kind of process though, because it's given us some time to add bit by bit and not just try and go full throttle. Right. So now we are serving all ministries equally. That is our goal. And I just had a meeting yesterday where we were talking with our students team, and I was like, hey, our goal is to serve you guys. So let's figure out how we can do that well, and how we can meet your expectations, but also stay true to who we are as a team and not step outside of what it is. And it's great. They appreciate that and love that. And over the years, that's helped build trust too, where we said, we believe in you. We believe in your ministry. It's not just about, we believe in the next generation. Our church says that and really believes that. We're doing a building project because of that. Like, we're doing things. And so let's focus our efforts towards them as well, because they deserve it too.
So, in your experience, you obviously moved to more of an agency model. Have you been in places where that hasn't been the case, and why is the agency model where you want to stay and go?
Yeah, I've been on staff at several churches in different roles, and I've always been in like the worship creative side. So communications has always been part of my job, at least lead worship. And what I realized was the the church isn't just one facet. It isn't just one ministry. It's a collection of ministries, and the ministry to the entire body. And so you can minister to adults well, but if you're not ministering to kids well or students well, there's a disconnect. And especially when we talk about like students and kids as they grow in their faith, and or as they grow up, are they growing in their faith, and will they stay in church? And it becomes much easier when we're investing in the next gen that this becomes much easier for them to stay in the church than to leave the church and then return when they're late, as an adult, right? And so for me, it was like I want us to be a church. I want to be a part of a church, and I want us to be a church that really puts the effort into valuing the next generation and reaching them. And so for me, it's like I don't want to just be serving one part of our church, because our church is diverse, and it's diverse in age group, and it's diverse in several different ways. And so I just don't want to return to the model where it's always kind of felt like, well, we serve only one part. I want to be part of, we want to be the resource for these ministries, so that, because we believe in what they're doing and we want them to succeed. And if I can give any bit, even if it's just the smallest amount, if I can give them something that helps them succeed in communications, whether it's email marketing, or if it's just ad placement, or if it's graphic design or video, we want to be a part of that. We want to help them reach more people, because we're better together. Like flat out, we are better together. Mm-hmm. We could try being separate and but we are just better together. And when we collectively come together as a team, and see the mission going from birth until, old age, and we focus our efforts there, I think the church is more powerful, more impactful.
Tell me how your team, and this could be the creative team in your context, the team that executes Sunday. Tell me how you guys serve the Sunday, serve the gathering, the celebration, the experience. How do you work with your pastor? How do you craft the series? Kind of give me that process.
Yeah, so our pastor is very creative. Pastor Daniel is phenomenally creative, and he comes up with some stuff that I'm just like, where did that come from? And he's got a pulse on the culture and what's happening. He's got teenagers too, so that also helps him. Let's say that he's like, I have a high schooler he's got a soon to be college age student or a young adult, and he's got a high schooler as well. And so he kind of understands what's happening in culture and understands the conversations that are happening out there. So he comes at it with a creative mindset, and he's a very creative person and very invested in that process and believes in that process. And so we as a team, we take lead from him. We allow him to speak into the process as much as he wants to, or as little as he wants to. But generally he has a good idea or a good concept. And, we as a like comms team and then creative team overall, we're entrusted with building a celebration that, or a service as some call it, that is engaging, that's inviting, where people feel like they're challenged when they leave. And so part of that process, it starts from, we have like our we call it pre-celebration or pre-service or pre-show, what people call them. It starts from there and crafting engaging content and being engaging there. And then through into worship and just being intentional. We work together as a team, a production team, comms team, and our worship team are all willing to step in and help out. And the process is, it kind of has been fluid over the years, or over the past, especially the past several months, we've had some transitions and changes. And so it's been very fluid, but in general, we kind of give each other freedom to work in our areas of expertise. And then we step out of areas that we're just I'm not proficient in this. I don't understand camera bit rates when it comes to streaming. That's just, I don't know it all. I know creative video bit rates, so I stay out of it. So we just kind of work together as a team and speak into those ministries, to the ministries, and we allow each other to do that.
How far is your pastor out in planning, and how much does the comm teams drive that planning?
Yeah, so he actually has a calendar that he does for a year of topics, and it becomes a fluid calendar. I've seen this calendar, for the past 4 years, and there's always been changes to it. Hey, listen, I feel like we need to go in this direction. Or, you know what, I want to plan this. I want to move this around because I feel like this is important here, or Lord speaking in this way. Let's address this. But he's planning
at least but you have a framework of what you're doing for the year.
Yeah. And so what that helps me do as the creative or the communications director, is it helps me, be working ahead towards concepts. And like, he does great things. Like he'll give us a little write-up or sentence of like, hey, here's what I'm thinking as far as topic or where we're going in direction with this message series. And we work in series. So usually it's month, but it kind of can be fluid. And so I can work ahead and we can get assets ready. And it's super helpful for us because the more we can work ahead, the more we can prep ahead, the more creative we can be. If I can work ahead in certain areas and be, I get to marinate on the creative thoughts I have. And then I go, that won't work. But hey, I just saw this, or I had this thought that would work great. And it gives us the ability to, if we're planning in advance, and if we're working in advance, it gives us the ability to always evaluate. Because I don't know how many times I've done something in the past and I've been like, that was great in the moment, but that was awful afterwards. That was just trash. I wish I had done this, or, oh man, I had this great idea. We had this for Father's Day. We had this really cool creative idea for a video, but we were a little behind on it because of Easter and we had a conference that we were running and just some of the things that were going on. It was like, well, we're saving this idea in our back pocket for next year. And we may tweak it for something, but man, this is going to be a killer video. So the more we plan in advance and the more prepared we are, the better we can serve creatively our pastor and then also the other teams. And then also it gives us room, like when you're prepared, but maybe the Holy Spirit's moving in a different direction, it gives you an opportunity to say, well, we can pivot. We're ready to pivot because we've already worked ahead in other areas. Yeah.
One thing I want people to realize too is that, they might be going, well, that's great. You're a 2,000-3,000 member church.
Yeah.
You have the team that you need, But I want people to realize that you came in with just you, one other person maybe. And you guys have crafted this over the last 3 or 4 years. So you mentioned earlier about being relational with other ministries and building that trust. Give me some more ways that you have built that trust, or maybe some ways that you're delivering beyond the expectations that you had, put forth for them.
Yeah. So I said this before, I'm an Enneagram 8, and I don't put a lot of faith in Enneagram. I think people tend to use that as an excuse, and I use it as a kind of a qualifier. I understand. It helps me understand who I am. And so, but I'm also, I love to I'm a worker. I grew up in a family that was like, hard work is just a bedrock of who you are. My parents instilled in me from a young age, like work hard, give your all, and help others and do your best. And so I've really taken that on, and sometimes to a detriment. So it's kind of interesting. I want to help everyone and do as much as you can, and then not understanding your limitations and over promising, under delivering. It was a big problem with me. Like, oh yeah, we totally would love to do that. Well, I mentally don't have the capacity, or I don't physically have the time in the day to do all those things. So what I'm working on myself, and I think it starts with me as the leader of our comms team, but it also trickles down, is we're not going to overpromise. I'm going to give, hey, I think we can do this. I'm going to be honest with where we're at. Hey, we're short a person. Hey, this person's out. You know what? We don't have the time in our schedule because of this, and this. But let's figure out a way we can serve this. So I think having direct conversations, and I want to qualify this. I've had plenty of conversations with people, I've left plenty of conversations where I had to go back and apologize because I'm an 8, so I get passionate and I'm like, no, let's do this. This is what I want to do. And so being willing to say, hey, listen, I was wrong. That was wrong. The way I said that, the way I approached that, that builds trust, because you're willing to self-evaluate. You're willing to say, yeah, that was not the best. Also conviction on certain things, standing by what you say. If you say, this is why we do this way, if there's consistency across that, and the people say, okay, I've seen, comms say this, they won't do this, but they're not making an exception for this team over here. That's also a double-edged sword, because sometimes you have to make exceptions. Things change. You have to be flexible. But I'd say being kind of, that's something we're working on, is like, hey, if we're going to promise it, we're going to deliver it, being honest about where we're at. And ultimately that trust is built up close and over time. Trust is built up close and over time. So doing life with these ministry leaders, we're not just coworkers. We're not just co-laborers, which it's an important part of what we do. We're also friends. And so I care about them as, hey, how's your kids? How is your dad? We utilize a lot of like technology with Slack and different communication tools where we're sharing prayer requests with one another. We're being vulnerable with one another and being honest in community. And that takes time because it's uncomfortable to be vulnerable because you're laid bare. Your people are like, I know the real you, not just what the face you put on or the brave face or the strong persona. I know the real you. And I know that deep inside, I'm a words of affirmation person. That is like number one. My wife will tell you, and she's the opposite. She's not a words of affirmation person. So she's like, you are really words of affirmation. So understanding people and their love languages and understanding who they are and speaking to them the way that they like, there's just so many things. And I'm not perfect. I'm not perfect. I am learning a lot of the ways. Like I had a conversation one time and I said to my wife, we were talking about, cause she's in ministry with me. She's on our staff as well as a groups leader and events director. And she I was like, I was being kind. She's like, no, you weren't. I'm like, what? I thought I was being, she's like, no, you weren't. Your face said something different. I was like, but my words. She's like, but your face. So you have to be willing to take that feedback and offer constructive criticism too. I think I've seen that's where it's been valuable. When people can see your heart, they know they can trust you. They can trust you with their vulnerabilities. They can trust you with what you're working on. And for them, I think there's a lot of like variables in trust. And it takes time. I mean, it just does. And it's frustrating because you want people to trust you. I'm not untrustworthy, but we have to kind of prove to people, hey, you can trust us. And that goes with the church too. Like church has we're battling that perception that we're untrustworthy in some ways. Right. Yeah. When you see there's moral failures or you see there's church abuse and things like that, it's like, you have to build trust with people, and to being trustworthy is saying, hey, I made mistakes. I'm not perfect, but here's where I'm trying, and being honest with people.
So we talked about project management earlier. Mm-hmm. How important is added transparency in the process to you? How important is project management tools, a project manager? Talk at that for a minute.
Yeah. So like I said, when I first started 4 years ago, I laugh now. It was the best I could do at the time, right? Like I'm not trying to downplay it. I think, you learn and you grow. And so in a couple of years, we're all going to look back at something we did and laugh at it, right? Like, that was probably not the best way to handle it. But we were doing this like intake form through our church management software. And the intake form would just go and live in our church management software. And we would print out physical copies, and then we would highlight them or circle certain things and then photocopy them and give them to people. And like, hey, here, work on this. And the way that other ministries or people came and found out if something had been done is they would walk into your office or they'd send you an email. And I remember there was this one email chain it was 113 email messages. When I first started, the chain was that. And I was like, because it was a really big event and they were emailing back and forth. And I said, I with email platforms and how emails are laid out with replies, like, I don't even know what I'm reading because I have to read the same email 4 times. So it was just a mess. And what happened was, that's another way we built some trust, was we added transparency into the process by bringing in a project management tool. For us, it's Monday.com. When about 3 years ago, when we brought this on, we kind of evolved. We went from that email and paper system. Then we added, I'm trying to think of what it was. It was one of those like checklist apps that you could share your checklist with what you were working on. So I knew what my team was working on at any given point for the most part. And then we were like, hey, we need some more transparency way to deliver. So we added Monday.com, and that was like game changer. Actually, for the longest time, people were like, that's the single greatest thing you've done since you've gone on staff. And I was like, oh, that's the only, like, that's the best thing I've done, right? But it was really good because and the other teams adopted it. Our facilities team actually adopted it, and they're using it. So when people are requesting things from our facilities team, there's transparency and like there's updates, and you can see, hey, I've worked on this, or here's the deliverable for us on ComSting. Like, here's the the graphic. And, we've added other tools like with Dropbox and Slack and other things, but what it's done with the tool, with the software is it's easier for us to communicate. We're not trying to find someone across campus. And as we're building now, our campus can get bigger. So it's going to be even harder to find people. And you're not worried about phone calls. They can see it, and there's a public trail of it. And I kind of like that. There's some public accountability for a couple reasons. It shows others that you're meeting deadlines and timelines. It shows others that you're how you interact, and they can read kind of. So there's some they can gather the pulse of what your team's at. They can also see all the other projects on your list. And so, and if you're good about it, which our project manager is great about it, really breaking things out. Cause sometimes you look at projects and it's this, when we're working on a project, it's not just a graphic, it's a movie, a mini movie, and it's a countdown, or it's a pack. And there's multiple facets to it's just a pack. No, this is a big thing. There's design that goes in. So it has transparency. And then our project manager, she's done a phenomenal job. I'm gonna give a shout out to Zuli right now. Zuli does a great job in keeping us all on task. And she's got a great way with, she's doing all of our intake too. So I'm not in, what would really bog me down was I was in meetings all day. Right. And I was in meetings with people, and it wasn't official meetings. It was hey, let's talk for 30 minutes about this project, where she's come in and she's taken over that. And it's given us the ability to put people in the places, and you be focused on the work that you are good at, and don't worry about the project aspect. I don't need my videographer, any of my videographers sitting in meetings all day when only one portion of this project is on their plate. So I think it's given us some organization, and I think this translates beyond just communications and creative, but it kind of translates across the church world. Processes are important, and processes that aren't just there for the sake of having a process, but are there to help move along the work of ministry and help move people and help add progress and track progress and see where we're at. So we're all on the same page. That transparency has been huge for us. And I still love it. It's also, it's a motivator, because when everyone can see that you haven't done something,
that red missed deadline is staring you in the face. Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Tell me how you say no. How do you set boundaries so that your team and the ministries are successful?
It's good. Goes back to that trust aspect. When people know you and they care about you, they understand, hey, I don't want to overload you or any other person on your team, right? I care about you as a person. So it makes it a lot easier. Our pastor has empowered us to say, hey, listen, you need to know where your limits are. You also need to know that just because, it's don't put a cap on your capacity. So you should always be expanding your capacity, but don't get to the point where you're sacrificing yourself or your team or the ministry or your family. And so it's a delicate tightrope. I actually asked this question the other day. I asked of someone, and it was another ministry leader. I looked at them and I said, do I have the authority to tell you no in this area? It's your area, but do I have the authority to tell you no? And they're like, yes, you do. So I think there's something important there where they trust me enough to know when I'm saying no, it's not because I'm just want to be a jerk, or because I don't believe in their ministry. Because we as a team, not just myself, but we as a team have consistently delivered for them. And we've been a part of dreaming with them. And hey, I want to bring you a new idea. I want to add into this process. And so it becomes a little bit easier because they trust you. And so it's tough though, because I'm not a natural say no to people. I like to say yes.
Right.
But
you got to know your limits and boundaries and all that. Yeah.
Yeah. Cause I'm not Superman, and no one is, except for Superman. You have to know where your cap is, and you have to say, is this a logical stretch of my capacity? Can I just grow in this area? Or is this is going to be detrimental to me or to my team or the ministry itself? And so I think it's a tightrope you walk, and the authority comes from other people giving you the authority. willingly understanding you and understanding
it's good
your
to
ministry.
ask. I think that's a good tip is to ask, hey, where's my authority here? All right. Is it different for every single church, or are there things that you would definitely implement at every church? You know what I'm asking?
No, yeah, absolutely. I think the agency model that we do, I think it can go to every church. I think the reality is, we've talked about this with capacity, is like, you have to understand what you can and can't do. And so there are so many ways to kind of move along your productivity. And I always, you don't want to reinvent the wheel. And I've had several team members where, like, we're working on something and they want to start from scratch. And like, I want to come up with and it's like, no, you have to manage your time properly. And so let's use assets and templates, or let's use things that pull things, like let's get us further down the field. And I think you can scale with the agency model. If you're a one man or woman show in a church, it still can scale. It just may not look as robust. Like, it may not be like you're doing social media for every ministry and you're doing all their creative video and all their graphics and you're doing all their email marketing. It may be like, hey, we're going to help serve you in the areas that we're strong in, and we're going to put our resources into helping you grow. I also think with like smaller staff churches, you have to understand that it's where you're investing in, when it's sometimes it's bringing outside organizations. You know, like 1230 Media is a great organization that's bringing graphics and video to churches that may not have the team members to do that work right now. They don't have the skills physically on staff, but they can still help guide and direct, and they can still help be a part of that process. And bringing in an outside company, freelancers or organization to help with that is important. The whole idea with agency model is that we want to serve the ministry and serve the community. And so you can pare down as needed. Don't feel like you have to do all of it, but hey, I want to provide this for you as part of the agency model. I'm really good at social media copywriting. Let's say you're a person like, I'm really good at writing copy for social media. Let me help you write some copy for some social media posts. Like, that's part of that agency model. They would be contracting you, for lack of a better term, to help them in an area. I don't think it has to always look the same. If I were to go to any other church in America or wherever, I would really still bring the principles of agency. And the idea is that we're cooperating to help you get better and us get better. Because I care about your ministry as much as I care about my ministry, and your ministry is just as vital to the overall ministry and to the big global church as mine is. And so I think it scales easily. I just think you have to be intentional with it.
Great. All right, man. Well, thank you so much for your time. Will you do some random rapid fire trivia before you go?
Sure. Why not?
All right, here we go. All right, number one, what is something that you wish you were better at?
I wish I was better at, that's a good question. I wish I was better at delegating.
What is a pet peeve that you have about the church?
Where we become a social club and not focused on what our really great commission is, and understanding that we are a church, a part of the global church, and it may look different expressions of worship, but we're all the same team. And I know there's some nuance to that, but we're all Team Jesus. So let's act like that and treat one another with respect. I hate when other churches tear churches down. I just can't stand it. It's like, that's not what God's calling us to do.
Yeah. What TV show are you embarrassed to say that you watch?
I don't watch a ton of TV. I'll be honest with you. I don't really watch. I watch sports, and then I'll watch a few shows here. Embarrassed to say that I watch. I'm really not embarrassed by any of my TV shows.
Right.
Honestly,
guilty pleasure.
Guilty pleasure. I'm actually this is funny. I'm 37 years old. I'm an old guy. And I am just now getting into Star Wars. Just now.
You're a little late there, bro.
I am. Great Disney Plus. I can binge watch them all. Yeah. So before I go to bed at night, I'll turn one on for a few minutes, and I end up falling asleep very quickly. But I'm into that. So maybe that's my embarrassment now. I'm embarrassed.
Do you have a favorite? You're embarrassed that it took you so long.
No, I'm kind of embarrassed. Star Wars is a little nerdy, and I like it. I'm all about the nerd. I really love documentaries too. My favorite so far, honestly, like I just want to tell everyone, let's just be real. A New Hope is trash. It's pure trash. I watched it and was like, I used to think the newer episodes, like the ones that happened when I was in high school and middle school, were like bad. No, A New Hope was awful. I just watched it the other night. I'm like working my way through the whole series of them.
Had you never seen the original
fully.
trilogy?
I'd seen parts of it on TV, but I was like, I'm gonna go watch the Goonies instead, or I'm gonna go watch basketball or football or baseball or something else.
Yeah. All right. What is one quality that every pastor or leader should lean into more to cultivate a great team?
Ooh, that's a good one. One quality, I have to pick one. I think it would be the trust aspect of building trust with your team. And part of that, I mean, that's really nuanced, but like building trust by being vulnerable and admitting when you're struggling or when you're wrong. That Speed of Trust book, was it Seth Godin, I think is who wrote that? It's so good in that lean into building trust with your team. And as you build that trust, they'll have your back because they'll know your intentions, they'll know your heart, and they'll know you. And then they'll have your back in the community as you're trying to, hey, we need to use this verbiage, or we need to talk about this way, or this is how we are moving in the direction we're moving. They trust you to move that way. They're not second guessing you all the time. But when with the trust, man, I know this is longer. This isn't very rapid fire, but when they trust you, that trust there, they trust that they can give feedback and they can push back, and they trust that your heart is in the right place, that you say, I'm going to hear that. And I know I trust you to know that you're not trying to be a jerk or trying to or second guess me. So I think that trust, building lasting trust, is really important.
Last one. What is something we do in the church or in ministry that we should do less of?
Complain. I would say, I'm gonna talk about ministry people, for example, for a second. Hey, ministry people, as if you're on staff or you're a volunteer or you're staff and church pastors and people that are high capacity volunteers, like, we have the greatest message in all of history, and that is the hope of Jesus, the life-saving hope of Jesus. We have light and darkness. We're carrying that message, and God's entrusted us with that. And it's a huge mantle, and it can be a heavy weight, but it's also a privilege and an honor to be able to do that. And so when we get into ministry, it's easy to complain about what we don't have, or maybe about people, and realize people aren't resources. They're human beings. And so let's not complain about them. It's easy to do too, as I'm I can be a glass half empty person very regularly. So it's easy to complain about things and get stuck in that. But complaining's never gotten you anywhere. So complain less, have optimism, have faith, have hope, have joy in that we get to do this. Like I tell my team this all the time, you realize this is our job, to share Jesus with people. What brings us joy, peace, security, like we get to share that with people. So instead of complaining about it, let's embrace the nuance and let's recognize the difficulties, because the difficulties are there, but let's not complain about it. It doesn't do anyone any good. Let's be reminded that our peace and our joy and our hope is found in Jesus, and we get to do this. And I don't mean that in a manipulative way. I mean, like, this is a privilege to do what we do. And it's an honor to serve the local church, and through 1230, the global church, and different expressions of that. The Church of Jesus Christ is a beautiful thing. And it's diverse. New Testament shows us that. And it shows us how diverse and how much variety there is, and how much struggle and pain there is throughout the world. And so we get to be that hope. So let's not complain about it. Let's embrace it, and let's move forward. Let's continue to charge hell with a water pistol. Like, let's go, because we have the hope for humanity in Jesus. It's not us, it's Jesus. So,
well, man, thank you so much for your time. It's an honor to call you friend and co-laborer in ministry. And man, I appreciate all that you do, not only for your church, but for 1230 and just for the kingdom, man. Really appreciate you.
I appreciate it too, man. I love that your heart for ministry extends far beyond just 1230, but I know you care about the pastors and the creatives and the people in the local church, being able to help them grow spiritually And you care about that. So I love that that's your heart, and I appreciate you taking some time and letting me just talk about my passion in communications. If you can't tell, I really love this stuff. And so it's been an honor to be here with you.
Yeah. Thank you, buddy. Hey guys, I wanted to remind you that our blog and podcast archives, you can easily sort through all that free training by category. So you can just use the drop-down menu to select church communications, for instance, on the blog or podcast pages, and every article or podcast that we've done that relates to church communications will come right up. Just go to 1230.media/training. That's 1230.media/training. All free training to help you make Sunday happen.
The show notes for this episode are available now at makingsundayhappen.com.
Hey guys, hope you enjoyed the podcast this week. Next week on the show, I will welcome Marty Sawyers. Marty is the president and CEO of Full Strength Network. I'll be talking with Marty about how lonely it can be at the top, the importance of our well-being as leaders, how it can be a really big burden and hard to be successful as a pastor or a church leader. How lonely is it at the top? We'll have Marty on the show next week to talk all about that. We'll go out there and create some incredible worship experiences this weekend. I'll catch you next week.
Making Sunday Happen is a production of the ministry of 1230 Media. For show notes, archive episodes, and more free resources for your church, visit makingsundayhappen.com.